Hello, listeners. Mark here with our old friend Paul O'Brien to cover what's been a rough week for Paul's club, Widnes Vikings. We're going to run through the goings-on of the last week and, from finding out just how big a hole Widnes were potentially in on Tuesday, I suppose, to the administrators arriving on Friday, it's escalated quite quickly. So, Paul, welcome back to SLP. Sorry that it's to talk about something so negative, so bad.
No, thanks for having me. I didn't think 2 weeks ago that we'd be having this conversation, but as you said, in the last week, things have changed dramatically down at Widnes.
No, that's right. The last time we spoke in person to each other was the first game of the season for Widnes this year, when against Halifax, when everything seemed actually quite optimistic. It was a decent crowd of over 4,200, which was over 1,000 up on the game against Halifax in the qualifiers last year, and everyone seemed quite positive. And there was no indication from the staff and all that around the club that this was on the horizon. So how? I suppose before we go through like what happened each day this week, did it come as a shock to you? How much of a shock did it come?
I think the big concerns for me was at the back end of last season when we were relegated. There was obviously the board had said that they weren't wanting to continue and they were looking for investors. And as time rolled on towards the season, nobody had come in, and there still seemed to be no clear leadership down at Widnes. So there was always, what's going to happen? There's nobody pumping money into the club. And we got to the beginning of the season, we got to within a month of the season, and there was a buzz around the club. The players seemed to want to be playing for each other. There was a buzz with the fans. There was better interaction from the club. So you thought we were on a positive step. There was looking for investment. They'd had positive people coming in to look. And then all of a sudden we're in this type of trouble. An investor was looking at us and we has pulled out. They had the fundraising night on the Friday night before all this came out, before the Toronto game. And it was like a bit of a shock, really, that it happened so quickly. I think we always knew that we needed investment, but then from somebody pulling out to we could possibly go into administration within a week was quite a shock.
So obviously you were at the fundraiser night, sort of the Friday before the week that's been, and.
Yeah.
What was that event sold as? Was anyone kind of because there was obviously the board and stuff were there, weren't they? So did they tee you up at all for any of what's happened?
No, it was a really positive night. There was lots of people there. There were some of the players there, obviously the backroom staff, and they were just saying that we need funds and stuff, and it's a way of raising some money for the club. They were positive. They had Phil on stage, who was at the bloke who was at the administration with the two administrators, and he was saying there's investors looking at the moment. We're all really positive behind the scenes. We've got to stay positive for everybody. We're looking for the future, and everything seemed as if it was all under control, and that it was just a case of the investors were going to invest in the club and we'd all be happy and shining. But it obviously, somewhat within the records and the money that was owed was not to the likings of the people that were looking to invest, and one person in that consortium decided that they were going to pull out, which meant everybody else pulled out. So that then left us with nowhere to go, really. And I think at that point, maybe the club have decided, well, we can't just struggle on from week to week, and especially if you can't pay your players, you can't pay your backroom staff, then you're not going to be able to pay them this week. You can't pay them the week after. It'll just continue and continue. I think then they've just done the only thing that's been feasibly possible.
So, you talk about some of the debts maybe weren't to the liking of the people coming in. One of the things that came out probably between last Friday and Tuesday, when the official news of this all started to break, but the murmurings and the suggestions and the sort of information that was starting to get found and discovered. The most worrying one, I suppose, was 370,000 being owed to the local council, which all local councils are in pretty difficult positions, and for the board not to be paying those bills, it probably, for the fans, leaves you in a bit of a conflicted position. And then we got to Tuesday, didn't we? And we heard players and staff won't be paid. So the prospective takeover that you mentioned fell through. meant that they were going to be unable to pay the staff and the players at that stage on Wednesday of this week, and obviously the investors that were expected to take ownership on Tuesday actually pulled out because of one key member, like you say. So the Vikings did a statement. I'm going to be reading a few of these as we go along, Paul. So the Viking club's statement said, throughout the past 3 months, Widnes Vikings Board of Directors and senior staff members have made extensive efforts to engage business leaders and individuals to secure investment to stabilise the club and to overcome the potential threat of administration. This has included the board writing off more than £370,000 worth of loans that they had provided to the club throughout their tenure. It had appeared likely that a consortium of investors would take ownership of the club today, providing the necessary investment to secure the club's future stability. However, at a late stage, a key member of this consortium has withdrawn from this process. As a result, the club has as yet failed to secure necessary investment and is unable to make its payroll commitments for all employees tomorrow. Efforts to secure investment remain ongoing, and we will continue to pursue all available avenues. The club continue to invite other expressions of interest from individuals or groups that may wish to support Widnes Vikings at this time. The club is taking advice in response to this matter. And at this stage, they said Widnes Vikings continue to trade, and at this stage, our scheduled fixture against Sheffield Eagles will be unaffected by these challenges. It goes without saying everyone associated with Widnes is incredibly grateful for the ongoing backing of our supporters and partners at this difficult time. So, that was Tuesday. How scared were you when that statement came out on Tuesday?
I think as excuse me, I think as a fan, you get that statement coming out and you're like, there's obviously bigger problems going on behind the scenes that the fans haven't been let on. We've never been very transparent as a club. It's probably the same at every rugby league club. You don't know always what's going on behind closed doors, and to have a statement like that put out, you then start thinking there's a real possibility we ain't going to be playing this weekend. And if you're not able to pay staff and players, then we're in serious trouble here. We obviously haven't got a lot of money in the bank to be able to pay them, because the fundamentals is you pay your staff and everything. But then if you're not paying your staff, you're looking at the other things, insurance, match day things, and you just think, oh, hold on, it's starting to get a bit worrying now. But I think everybody was still keeping the faith that there was going to be something coming out of it. I think we were just all trying to stay positive. There was things on Twitter, people were still worried, but no, we'll be there, we'll be fine, we'll be all there on Sunday. There'll be a big crowd because they had this the 10,000 that we were trying to get over the Sheffield and Featherstone game. So we were thinking there's been money coming in from the fans that are buying tickets, so hopefully there's been enough there. But then obviously the rest of the week then started to unfold.
Yeah, so we started to get some views in from our listeners about what's been going on, because we didn't expect necessarily the news to get so far advanced as the week went on. So Brian got in touch. He said, another example of a stupid club making stupid decisions. Don't chuff and spend what you haven't got. What's been the point of the last 10 years? Won now, got nowhere near out, and are now further away from winning anything than before. 10 years of slow and steady growth, and they could have been going for Super League top 5 in front of decent crowds instead of going bust. That picks on something we'll probably talk about a little bit later, the spending money that they haven't got aspect of it, because I think we do need to cover why on earth we've got here and where the hell has the money gone, but we'll get to that. Genghis Campbell said, terrible news if it happens. Fond memory. So obviously this was before administration. Fond memories of Jonathan Davies heading north back in the day and introducing a whole generation of Welsh kids to a strange version of the game played up north. Presumably they can carry on in some form with a -12 penalty somewhere, but shows the House of Straw Rugby League is built on. The whole game needs new markets, revenue streams and fans. So obviously that's talking about the wider picture, and Tom Andrews talks a little bit about the wider picture too. He says, sad state when one of the top 15 to 20 clubs in the country are in this state. Is it relegation's fault, or were the wheels already falling off? If it is relegation, as it happened to the last two clubs to go down, it shows how well Hull KR dealt with it when it happened to us. And then he adds in, James Rule should never be allowed to employ people again. Disgraceful what he's done to that club. Mark Butler, who is a Widnes fan, got in touch. He said, there doesn't seem to be much of a straw to clutch at with this. It's clearly been a long time in the making, as the club has appeared rudderless for some time. But to grimly hang on while Super League money was coming in, go through the motions while new players arrive, and ultimately take it to the point of not paying staff wages defies belief. Carsten said, how can this happen to the second relegated club in a row? This is a problem. Is this a problem of the relegation, or was the club just badly managed? Too many questions are still open here. And then Gareth Sunley got in touch, who is another one of your season ticket holders. He said, £200 for a one-match season ticket. I think I've been done one last time by James Rule.
Yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it? You bought a season ticket for the year and one game, and you've it for like £200.
Yeah, I mean, and it, like, we all hope that the games get put back on at some point. By the time that this happens, we don't know what position Widnes will be in, but we'll get to that in a second. I think one of the things that, it's demonstrating, people are talking a lot about relegation being a problem. Widnes, back when they were relegated, was it 2005 last time they were relegated from the Super League? I think
it was, yeah.
And then
2005, yeah.
Then the year after, they sort of put a big push in to get promoted, and they missed out on promotion closely to Castleford, didn't they? And that put you back in administration in 2007. So you've been here before. You've been here before after relegation, really. So do you think relegation's a problem, or do you think the problems, do you think to blame it on that is to ignore the problems, the bigger problems of the fact that this club were not getting sufficient crowds through the doors? They weren't getting the community getting into the stadium to watch the games, no matter what good work they were doing reaching out to the community, and yet they were still spending as if they were bringing players, if they were bringing fans in. Hull KR were mentioned there. They were still getting crowds of 6,500, 7,000 outside of the Super League, which is remarkable, and only one or two clubs we've seen really do that on a regular basis, and Widnes were not one of them, even though crowds were possibly slightly better at the back end of the last Championships day than they were in the last year and a half or so.
I don't completely blame relegation. I think in 2007 it seems different this time than 2007, even though we went into administration. We put a lot of money into that final push, getting to the grand final, and we played Castleford at Henley. I remember it because I was there with my dad, and we got beat, and you could see that deflation in the players on the pitch and everything. I mean, you knew something was going on, and obviously we went into administration, then were saved by Steve O'Connor coming in and buying the club. This time has felt like it's a mismanagement of the actual club itself rather than the relegation. I think what's been happening, we've been running on a thing that I think that it was mentioned at one point that when we got into Super League, they were budgeting that we would have 7,000 fans or more at each game. Now, Widnes has never really been a highly supported team, despite it being the club in the area and trying to get Widnes fans on board. We've always been looking at your average of just maybe over 5,000, 5,000 to 6,000. So if you're already budgeting for a team on an extra 1,500 fans that aren't coming through your door, you're already on a loose footing then anyway, so you're already losing money. We don't own the ground, so you've got to pay your rent, so you've got so many thousands that are coming through, you've got to get them before you're even starting to make a profit and turnover. So I think it's just been a thing of mismanagement, and hopefully it'll all come out what people's wages were, whether it be players, directors, backroom staff, because to have this type of money, because I know in 2010 they had a turnover of 2.5 million with a pre-tax profit of $1 million, and now we've got £1,000 they said in the bank.
In 2010?
Yeah.
And that was before you were back in Super League. That was the year before you got at the end of that year you got granted the license, didn't you, to come back into Super League? So that's absolutely remarkable that it's gone from being in profit in the Championship to being hemorrhaging so much money in Super League when the central funding you'll have had will have trebled. Yeah,
and that's what makes you wonder, where has this money been leaking? Yeah, and it concerns me that you've got board members there who haven't come out. I went to a